Hey guys, I'm thinking about investing in Provo.
What about St. Louis?
Why not Indianapolis?
That's what we're talking about today.
Welcome to the Utah Real Estate Show podcast, the show where two agents and a lender teach real estate best practices by talking through mistakes we've seen and made.
We were both nervous about what it'd be like working together, but honestly, she's my most amazing property manager I've ever had. In fact, now I just try and buy deals wherever she's willing to manage.
Wow.
My northern Indy stuff, I've been trying to sell off and just buy everything down where she is. Because I gotta tell you, even more important than how perfect the property is, you want to buy where the people you trust are willing to manage. That is way more important than the right.
Write that down at home. That is important. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Utah Real Estate Show. I am Tyler Kazera, Utah Real Estate Agent.
Jason Christiansen, mortgage lender.
Aric West, Utah Real Estate Agent. And here we have Hyrum Oaks, who is the CEO of Race Entry. Has nothing to do with housing or real estate, but you're an awesome investor, and that's why we wanted to have you here. So we're excited.
Yes. So our topic is really going to be, this show today is really going to be targeting people who haven't done a lot of real estate investing, who it's not their career, right?
Right. They're not professionals in the industry.
And that's why we have Hyrum on. Hyrum is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for how long now, Hyrum?
Too long,
15
probably.
years.
15, yeah, like
roughly.
many years.
More than that, actually, yeah.
Yeah. We've had a lot of fun together. And we've designed many things together. It's been a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But so the first thing is, do you own real estate?
Yeah, I do. Have about 33 units, I think. Yeah.
Nice. And where are your units at? 2
are in Provo and 31 are in Indiana. Just the cash on cash is better out of state.
Okay. Yeah. And that was my next question, like what drove you out of state? So obviously the cash, the return on investment. Anything else that drove you?
Wait, well, hold on. Before we get too carried away with industry jargon, cash on cash. What is that?
How much cash I'm putting in versus how much cash I get back per dollar spent. So like, for example, most of my fourplexes, the mortgages on a fourplex in Indiana, you can acquire them for, well, when I first started, you could get them anywhere from $95,000 to $115,000. It's higher than that now, but that was just a few years ago.
Like a quarter of the price you can get them here if you get a good deal.
Fourplex here is like $1 million bucks or more.
It's higher, yeah.
You'll rent for more here, but I can rent for 4 times mortgage there, or at least 3 times mortgage, even when I'm doing bad. You are lucky to net a couple $100 here. And so even though the rents are drastically higher here, if I spend the same $1 million in Indiana, I'm going to have about 4 times the rent.
So your cash on cash is money down to monthly income received. You're not waiting to sell to acquire that.
Yeah, but even everyone that I tell my strategy to always argues, but appreciation's so much better in Utah. That's not been my experience. My fourplexes are all worth almost double what they were 3-4 years ago.
Well, and that's about Utah. It's a different type too, because even if appreciation is amazing, you can't just go and grab that money easily. You have to refi, you have to do extensive lines of credits, you have to do different things to get that. Where you're at, you have a check coming once a month that's coming into you. Yep. So I mean it's a different type of investment, and it's where you wanted to go, which is awesome. I have a lot of newer investors right now that are reaching out for advice, and which is why we wanted to have you here to have a different perspective on stuff. Of one of the things that I've been saying, hey, as a beginner, maybe focus really good and learn. If you're going to do Airbnb, great, but really learn it. Know the marketing, know the area, know what you're doing. If you're going to do cash on cash type of investments, figure out where you want to be at and understand how to do it. If you're going to do equity investments, understand how you're going to do it, the pros and cons. Really learn that instead of going, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. Now you have 3 rentals that you really only know a few percent about. What happens when something goes wrong? Or
try something, but make sure you've got a plan B that works.
Yeah.
Like
it's still an investment. Like you have to be willing to lose that. Yeah, it's
very good advice. So let's go back to Hyrum and your experience. So you had the 2 units here in Provo. How long did you have? When did you end up acquiring those units?
Well, my first rental property was actually in the neighborhood I lived with you in. When I moved, I didn't sell the house. I kept it and rented it out. Okay. And I had a terrible experience. I mean, I owner managed, I didn't hire a management company, and I'm just not a bill collector. So they give me the sob stories, and I believe every one of them, and I just learned.
So your big problem was collecting rents.
Oh, I went, I think, 7 months straight without collecting rent one time.
Oh,
and
wow.
You got all of that money back, right?
Oh no, and a lot of people would quit after something like that. But I had paid this house down to $18,000 left, and so the payments were small. There was no debt, and so it wasn't killing me. I was fine. But with my day job, the race entry thing, when you're first starting a company, it's cash intensive, especially with development teams, as Tyler can tell you. Mm-hmm. And so I needed some cash. So I sold that property, used a lot of it towards the company, but not all of it. And like I say, it was almost paid off. So I got almost all of it cash. And, but I had enough cash, and I don't know if it was a wholesaler or a short sale. There was some duplex in Provo, had a hole. You could have shot a rocket right through the roof and not hit anything. And it was, the water's off, the power's off. We couldn't test anything. It's like an auction kind of situation. And so I took a risk, and,
Were you following auctions at the time, or did someone reach out to you?
Well, I'm a pretty competitive person, and I had a pretty bad taste in my mouth for how it went on the last time. So I knew other people had better experience. So I knew I was doing it wrong, and I assumed, and I think I assumed correctly, at least my recipe was not supposed to have me manage the properties. Okay. Not just from a time standpoint, because I'm pretty busy, but also I don't think I have the personality to be cutthroat on making sure the rents are on time and making sure people are taking care of it and all the things that are involved in property management. That's just not my style.
You're an owner, not a property manager.
Yeah, I'm not a property manager. Gotcha. I don't mind DIY stuff. I'm happy to swing a hammer, do some demo, do some construction, but I am not I don't like dealing with people issues. Even though I manage a company, for some reason it's different. I don't know.
I think that's a really good thing to realize. Know your weaknesses. Don't there's some things in life where you need to learn and grow, and some things where you don't. I suck at this. I'm not going to do it. So much cheaper. I have so many people who want to get into investing. I'm going to save $200 a month by not hiring a property manager. I think, oh boy.
Did you come to that realization, or was it a wife or a friend or? Well, because a lot of people have a hard time recognizing that they're not good at something, and like Jason pointed out, I think that's a huge crucial thing of changed your game. Because what happens if you went and bought 2 more and decided to continue to self-manage and
before I bought the next duplex, I had actually hired a property management company that helped me evict the tenant. Not only do they have a better skill set than me, but they're more versed on the laws and the whatever else and the how-to. And so we got a new tenant. So I was already kind of linked up with this guy. So there was just a short period of time, but it wasn't even a half a year later when I was already into a new property. And it needed, this may not sound like a lot of money now, but in 2014 or 15, whenever I bought this duplex, we spent $85,000 fixing it up, and that was with a ton of DIY. I mean, almost no labor. It was material, a ton. I mean, we had to tear it to the studs. When we got the keys and we flipped on the water, all the pipes were leaking everywhere. It had aluminum wires everywhere. I mean, stuff you wouldn't see in the. We had to basically rewire the whole home, replumb the whole home, all new kitchen, all new everything, and it was. And somehow that still didn't deter me.
I'm amazed, actually. That's quite a bit of work.
Well, I'm a pretty persistent person, but I'll tell you what, it goes a lot better when, like you say, if you can find your weaknesses and find people that's their strengths. Oh, it's totally worth paying the 9, 10, whatever % to have someone else take that on. And look, is it better to get 100% of zero rent that I was getting, or 91 or whatever % of actual rent coming in consistently?
Yeah,
so I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Not the headache.
Yeah, no headache.
Yeah.
And what's your hourly rate? There's tons of success coaches that say set what you want to make and then work as if you make it. And if you're like a lot of people who self-manage, they spend hours and hours. I mean, making minimum wage or less when everything goes into it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and having the right property manager matters. I've experienced that way more in Indiana than here. I think it's a little easier to... That's one advantage of buying local is you can actually more easily have regular contact. I don't have regular contact with my managers here. It's pretty much, I don't ever even think about my Provo duplex, ever. Mm-hmm. It's just taken care of, and money comes, and it's fantastic. And cash flow is like, even though it has more debt than that other one, I make way more money on that duplex. So it ended up being a win. I mean, it was a huge win. But
how'd you go from Provo to Indiana? So I mean, I know you figure out you want to do cash on cash, and that's what drove you out of state. But how'd you get your finances, and how'd you go from 2 homes to another 31? Because 2014, I'm assuming, is when you bought that one. That's not too long ago. Yeah. And you went to 33 in just a few years.
You got to remember, Indiana is like, it's like 6 or 8 to 1 on cost.
It's true. It's true.
It sounds more impressive than it is.
You still have to get funding. You still have to find dollars. You still got to get loans.
So I've always had an interest in wholesale stuff, but I've never been fast enough. Anytime I'd get the emails, I'd call and he said, "Oh, it's already closed." I'm like, the email came like 6 hours ago. What do you mean it closed? I'm probably exaggerating, but I just got so sick of the emails because I could never get on a wholesale deal quick enough here in Utah because it's just like sharks. They're gone quick.
Yeah, Utah's rough.
I don't even get the emails anymore. I don't even know if there are many deals anymore, but one day, I'm going to confess a sin here. I don't know if it's a sin, but it's one day I'm Latter-day Saint, and I was the ward clerk, and I'm in the foyer. You know how you count the people in your ward there? I'm counting, and I'm in the hall part where you're counting people sitting in the chairs in the outside, and my phone does the little alert thing, and I don't normally look at my phone during church, but I wasn't in the sacrament room. I'm in the foyer. Yeah, so I'm in the foyer, and I'm like, what the heck is this?
So you're at church. You're not in church. You're at church.
Yeah, sure.
As he was counting people, though.
Yeah. Okay. So I you know how you see the alert before you click into it, and I saw who the sender was, and I knew it was a wholesaler, and I was like, well, I gotta at least look, because I'm always too slow. I gotta at least look. So it's like. It was a townhome in West Valley. They wanted $185, and I don't know what year this was. It might have been 2017. I'm gonna give or take a year or two. Anyway, West Valley, $185 for a townhome, and I'm like, oh, this is game on. Like, I could see the pictures. It looked like ready to just flip. Other than it had purple carpet.
You not only bought a house on Sunday, you bought a house in church on Sunday.
I didn't buy it. I called him and said, it's mine. Don't let anybody else touch it.
I have to finish counting. I'll call you back later.
Yeah, well, I called him on Monday. We did all of it on Monday.
I'm going to sing some hymns.
So luckily, because I knew I wanted to be ready for a deal, I had done a HELOC on my primary residence. Yes. And I think it was I had like $200,000 ready for any moment just to go do something. And this is less than that. So it's like, I can just go pay cash for this thing. And so I call him. I didn't do the transaction on Sunday, but Monday I worked out the details, and I think we had closed by either that Thursday or Friday. So it was just a few days, and it was done. I mean, it was fast. And here's the crazy. No, it was Friday. I remember.
Did you even go look at the home?
Yes, I did. I did go look. I didn't even go. I think I drove by. I don't even know if they had I can't remember all the details. It was like someone died, and a family member was just getting rid of it. It was one of those kind of wholesale deals. But
it's amazing it made it to you, and someone didn't snatch it up along the way.
I can't believe I was the first that called, but I called the moment I got that ding on my phone. I stepped outside, made a call, went back in and finished my counting. But anyway, I was first.
I'll call you on Monday. Don't sell it. I can't do this right now.
Mine. I was like, I'm on it. Yeah, so that worked out. But so what was crazy is I closed Friday. I called my carpet guy and somehow got him to go up to West Valley from Orem on a Saturday with just hours notice, not even 24 hours notice. And I got a painter to go in Saturday too, paint carpet. It was under contract Monday. For $230.
For a rental?
Whoa.
For $230.
Oh.
No, sell.
You just sold it. You just flipped it.
I bought it Friday, under contract Monday, carpet paint done. $230.
Was it intended to flip, or were you ever thinking about putting a renter in it?
No. I didn't want to do anything West Valley. No offense to anybody who's from West Valley. I just didn't want to deal with something that far away, and I didn't have a property manager that far. Maybe my property manager would have done up there, but I didn't have enough time to really evaluate that. I just wanted to make some quick cash.
Gotcha.
So I could do something else.
Gotcha.
Right? And so you asked, how did I get the cash? That was maybe one of a few other steps. Well, and then that paid off my HELOC. So now I have my HELOC available to buy some real estate. And that duplex, it appreciated a few years later. So it got a HELOC going on that one too. And so I used HELOC several times. I did several mortgages, and just the first batch I bought 17 doors all the same day in Indiana. The first time I flew out was July, and in September I closed on 17. I was supposed to close on 19, but the problem was one of the duplex sellers was getting too impatient, and it was kind of complicated getting the finances to go all at the same, because the lenders were saying, don't do these staggered or it might mess up deals, close them all at the same time. I was like, okay,
and they probably still
crazy.
hated you.
What's that?
Yeah, and they probably still hated you.
You'd think, like, you buy multiples of anything else, it makes it easier. You get a discount. But the more loans you do, it makes them harder exponentially because there's so many moving parts.
So it wasn't one loan for 17 doors?
No, it was, I used my HELOC on a 5-plex. It was only
the same lender for all 17 doors?
No, because the 5 of the units were just on the HELOC that I just had sitting there. But the other 12 doors, so 4. Wait a minute, my math's wrong. I did more than 17 because I got 3 4-plexes, a 5-plex, and a duplex all at the same time. So what is that? So
19?
That's 19. So it was supposed to be 21. Sorry, this is a few years ago. My math's a little fuzzy at this point, but anyway, yeah. So I got 19 doors at the same time. It was supposed to be 21.
Nice.
And 5 of the doors. Well, actually, I got the duplex and the 5-plex on HELOC because I didn't want to burn a mortgage on a small duplex. That I got the duplex for $45,000. I mean, I wasn't going to burn a mortgage for $45,000. I don't even know if the lender would have done such a small mortgage. Well, because after you put money down, it's what, a $30,000 more? That's a car, so I was not going to burn. You only get 10 mortgages. I'm not going to burn a mortgage on $30,000. So I try to do, especially in Indiana where the price is so small, I try to do as much as I can 4-plexes just to get the unit count higher. Plus the cash on cash. It comes back to that. It's better because you're paying insurance on 1 lot instead of 4 lots. A lot of people have single family. I hate single family, right? I like my property manager when they're going for one thing, they might notice something on one of the other 3 units while they're there. You get more TLC when they're together. It's 1 roof I'm replacing, not 4 roofs. It's 1 batch of taxes on 1 lot. Like, yeah, a 4-plex is worth more than a single family, but not 4 times more. So it's more economical on insurance, on taxes, on more attention to more units at the same time. There are downsides. If one guy brings in bed bugs, they all now have bed bugs. So I'm not saying everything's better on the 4-plex as opposed to single family, but it's still my preference. How many times have you had bed bugs? Oh, in Indiana and some rural areas, it's a thing. In humid areas, it's more common out east than it is here. I know we don't have that many bugs here, but out east, there's more cockroaches there. There's more everything there.
I just love it when people bring stuff up. I want to know the story behind that.
Yeah.
Well, before we get any deeper into that, I want to, like, you skipped over a kind of a big section of that story, which was I flew out, I bought 19 units. Like, that's a huge choice. And so walk me through how you decided in Indianapolis, and then who did you rely on in Indianapolis to help you?
How did you vet them?
Oh, yeah.
Those, okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll try and go through all those. If I forget, you can bring me back.
That's all right. We'll bring you back, yeah.
So the first thing, I actually had been studying, even before I had done the West Valley deal, I knew, just from some friends or others that I had met, that there's, like, actually I was looking in Missouri, I was looking in Michigan, I was looking in several Midwestern states. And one of the things, I was ready to pull the trigger on St. Louis years before Indianapolis. But what spooked me is more than one person I knew from Utah who had invested in Indianapolis was having copper pipes stolen out of their houses, AC units getting stolen, even if it was chained to the house, still getting stolen. I was like, wow. So crime rate became a big consideration for me. And even Indianapolis isn't crime free by any means, but I kind of look at some certain cities and suburbs, and I tried to get close enough where someone could commute to the major market, but far enough away where, I mean, think Sandy instead of West Valley, right? That's the sort of thing I'm trying for. Someone can still commute to Salt Lake, but Indianapolis. And I don't like Indianapolis. I've been there. I actually will not buy properties in Indianapolis. You'll go through entire neighborhoods and everything is boarded up, like entire streets. Like you almost feel like you're in those sections of Detroit where the whole major neighborhoods are shut down. There might be one actual home being used and so much is condemned. And the crime, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as St. Louis, but there's still some pretty scary, like when I was going around town there, I don't even go see there's some nice neighborhoods in Indianapolis, some very nice neighborhoods, but I don't know that city well enough to know where's safe and where isn't. And I always felt a lot safer in the suburbs, and the properties were in better condition as a whole. Not entirely.
Were you touring these places by yourself, or did you have the help of a real estate agent?
Yeah, real estate agent. And I kind of got hosed at first. So this agent, how I selected him, he was kind of a partner with someone who was a property manager, and she was going to manage all my stuff, and I bought based upon her commitment to, I'm like, what's your area that you'll manage? And so she had a big area she's willing to manage. So I'm buying here and here and here and here, all over, not just north or just south or just east or west. I mean, I was all over the place. And then she decided all of a sudden, because I think she was managing something like 800 units or something, and she was just too overwhelmed. And like, I think it was like two days after I closed or something crazy like this, I might not even have keys at this point. She's like, I'm not doing it. You need to find someone else. I'm out of state. I have no property management, and I've already like bought my deals based upon her commitments. And honestly, that first bit was terrifying. And in fact, I found someone for my southern stuff really quick, and I was nervous about her at first because my first interaction was the fire department called us.
That's a phone call. Yeah,
fire department got my name somehow. I don't know how. They called me, and I called my new property manager. We don't even have an agreement yet, right? Yeah. This is all fresh. Like I'm not doing it, and then this person says they will do it. No paperwork's even transacted. Fire department, hey, person that we haven't even signed a contract, can you deal with this fire department thing? I can't remember what it was. It wasn't on fire. It was like, I don't know if there was a gas leak or I can't honestly, I don't know if the water's, some reason the fire department was called. And they're calling me, and it has to be dealt with now, and I'm out of state. And I don't even have a contract. And it was like, and she was like giving me heat because like, why did you do this to me? I'm like, I didn't do this to you. This lady that didn't do her job, that should have been prepared for all this. Yeah. Like it made me look bad. She now knows I'm not that kind of person where like, it was just the situation, right?
So start off with just a healthy dose of friction.
And so we were both nervous about what it'd be like working together, but honestly, she's my most amazing property manager I've ever had. In fact, now I just try and buy deals wherever she's willing to manage. Wow. My northern Indy stuff, I've been trying to sell off and just buy everything down where she is. Because I got to tell you, even more important than how perfect the property is, you want to buy where the people you trust are willing to manage. That is way more important than the
Write that down at home. Like that is important.
Yeah. Well, and another way of saying that is you had a relationship with a good property manager and you trusted where they said that they would recommend managing. Yeah. Not forcing that manager to go to a place where they're like, you really don't like going over here. And so once again, understanding where they're at and getting that information. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge.
Yeah. It was just like his properties in Utah, the house you flipped. You're like, I don't want to own a property in that area. Yeah. And it doesn't matter, like, people are super opinion. Yeah, it doesn't matter your reasons. If you don't like it, don't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get better attention if it's in their core competency or in their geography they want to do. Yeah. If you do something they don't really want to do, it's not going to get the attention you want it to.
Any job.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is.
You don't like to do it?
Yeah. I was almost trying to convince her to go take care of my north stuff, and she was kind of thinking about it. And then I got thinking about it. I was like, this is not a good idea. Like, she's a great property manager. Yeah, and I'm going to hate her because she's not going to do the job I need her to do. Yeah. And Tyler, you had wanted me to share a horror story, and I have one, but I don't know if I
thought that was the horror story.
No.
Oh shoot!
I've got way better. Did I cover your other things already?
Yeah.
Good enough.
Okay. So this is fresh, right?
Okay.
So remember I said my property management up north's not the best. Well, don't be scared about this story. But it is pretty bad. So again, this will just reinforce having the right team, how important that is, because this is something that could happen to anyone on your own home if you did what these guys did. So I have a fourplex. One of them, it's honestly the best looking fourplex. It's a cute fourplex up in, I think it's called Albany, Indiana. It's a little bit too far from Indianapolis. I wouldn't buy that far except for that first lady that totally hosed me right after I closed. She said, oh yeah, that's totally fine. Now everybody else is like, wow, that is really far. I mean, maybe I could manage that. That's what everyone says. I'm on my third property manager and everyone has not given the property the attention it needs. And just one example is the gas company has the units labeled wrong in the fourplex of which is unit 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and the serial numbers, it doesn't match up. There's some sort of thing. I'm sure this could be fixed, but it's in the middle of nowhere and no one's fixed it. And
how long have you had this property?
It was one of the 19 units I got. Okay, I've got more since then, but this is one of the original. I should have sold it ages ago. No, I really should have never bought it. I've had times where it's fully tenanted, but we spent a lot of money fixing it up. It's just like so nice. And anyway, this fourplex, last winter, I didn't know it, but it had gotten to where there was only one tenant of the 4 now, and they turned the gas off on 3 of the 4, which in Indiana, that's not going to work. Pipes froze, and another fire department interaction. They, the one tenant called the fire department. She didn't know the pipes had burst. She thought there was a gas leak. But what had happened was the other 3 units had leaked so much water, it had gone down into the basement and covered some pipe in some way that, at least how the fire department explained it to me, was sewer gases were coming up into her unit and she misinterpreted it for natural gas somehow. That doesn't make any sense to me, but that's the story I was given. But anyway, I got so many bids to go fix this, and maybe because it's in the middle of nowhere, so far away.
Is this last winter or just a few weeks ago?
This is just this last winter, a year ago. I mean, okay, so I switched property man. Part of the problem was it was like the lining up of the stars of all the things that could go wrong together. So I had fired multiple property managers. So I'm on property manager number 3 now, right? But in the transition, because of the ID problems, the new guy taking over, he took over in November, and the problem happened, we don't know, maybe December or January where it burst, because it didn't happen in the unit that had heat. It happened in the units that were vacant. And because it's far away and probably he wasn't visiting often enough, it could have been weeks before we knew. We just know at some point this lady called the fire department.
Thank goodness you had a tenant in there to like call on it.
Well, and there's water dripping onto the electric panels. It was like a whole bad deal. So they shut down the power, they shut down the water. We lost that tenant, and all the bids for the plumbing to re-plumb the whole deal, because they were cracked everywhere. I mean, it wasn't one crack. Like every square inch of this pipe, there's a crack, another 2 inches of crack. We literally, anyway, the bid was like, I don't know, $60,000 or some kind of crazy thing. And I only paid $96,000 to buy the place. And now I had put another, I don't know, 30 or 40 in doing final plank flooring and several other upgrades. But I mean, I wasn't going to spend half what I'm into it on plumbing. And I had a cousin that knew how to do plumbing, but I'm going way too far into this. Long story short, I finally in July, after trying to get a bid in Indiana but couldn't get one where I wasn't going to put up with it, I flew out with my cousin and we fixed it for like $6,000. Because again, DIY, I don't mind getting dirty and doing some work myself.
So it was vacant for 6 months?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. But you gotta remember, mortgages are nothing. It was like $780 to debt service this thing, and I'm cash flowing like crazy everywhere else, so it wasn't a big deal. When you got dozens of units,
good portfolio going.
It's fine. Yeah. I was fine. It's just, and so I just finally, he's like, oh, we can rent that now, and I'm like, no. So I listed it, But this is now, because that was in July, and you know what happened with rates in August, September, and now here we are. Fed might even raise it again, who knows. I did actually get under contract. So what happened was a wholesaler, which I normally ignore, on the other side of it, said, hey, if you can't sell this for, I think I'd listed it for, I don't know, 175. So just to make a little bit, because it's appreciated, right?
Yeah.
So I listed it for 175. Remember, I bought it 95 and put in some money. Just trying to at least get my money back out of it. The wholesaler said, hey, if you can't get someone, I'll buy it for 160, which I was surprised they offered that much, because all the offers I was getting were these crazy low ball 130,000. I was just like, I am not selling it for less than I'm into it. Thanks, but no thanks. I'll rent it sooner, which would be a terrible decision with all the bad property managers I've had. But anyway, so the wholesaler, I'm under contract with them now, and hopefully it'll close in a few weeks. And 160 is not great, but at least I'll walk away basically even on the deal after whatever kind of closing costs there are or whatever.
So earn some gray hair and some wisdom. But other than that, you didn't lose your shirt on it, which it could have.
I lost a week of productivity, and being in that stank, nasty black mold, that was like the most horrific. I mean, we're caught in sheetrock like every foot, and we're thinking this is the end of the crack. No, through 3 units of just, there's no end in sight. And then we repressurize the pipes, and then whoosh, and you're never done. You think you're done because this was the worst. And remember that short sale I had, every pipe, we repiped the whole. I've been through some bad rehabs. This was next level stuff. I mean, I think this house had the cheap trailer court PVC stuff.
Oh man.
And it just couldn't, like, normally if pipes burst, especially if it's PEX, you might pop in one spot.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple. Not on this thing.
So what advice would you give to say, here's how you'd avoid this in the future? What are you doing to safeguard yourself?
I don't think you can know that there's cheap trailer court PVC behind the sheetrock, but just don't have the wrong team managing your properties. Because if I had someone that was taking the effort to keep it heated through the window, first of all, my other property manager, I never have more than one door in a given 4-plex or 5-plex that is vacant, and it's filled within a couple months, even in the worst of times. She's amazing. That's why I want to buy everything wherever she is. In fact, there was a deal where the numbers weren't even that great, and I was trying to it was over the summer while I was dealing with that whole mess. While I was out there, she's like, hey, by the way, there's this, I don't remember how many units, it's like 20 or 30 units, and I was this close to closing on it. And then even the guy that was going to make all the money on me, the lender, he's like, are you sure you want to do this? These numbers don't look that great. And they're fantastic numbers by Utah standards. But like, they were not numbers I was used to doing. And he had seen what my portfolio was. And he's like, this isn't in line with what you're used to doing. Are you comfortable with that? And I'm like, well, I think so. I mean, it's Jamie. She'll make it work. He's like, I wouldn't do it. And so then I was like, fine. So it's rare for me when I'm like, I really wanted to buy it. And there was a question you asked earlier, Tyler, that I didn't answer. I can't remember how you had asked it, but what got me to get going, not just Indiana, but what pushed me over there to just get going. Well, there was one thing. So I had mentioned I was looking in St. Louis and Michigan and Ohio and several other Midwestern, particularly because the cash on cash is good, and then the crime. But one of the things that really got me going faster, one of my employees, one of my sales reps, he went and been hearing me talk about Indiana, because I'd finally identified that was the market I wanted after I'd ruled out the other Midwestern states, and I knew I wanted to do Indiana. He went and just did it. He went and bought 10 units. And I'm like, that freaking punk. He just went and got 10 units. And so I wasn't to be outdone, and so I was going to go buy 21 right away.
This is when you had just the 2 in Provo.
Yeah, I was like, this guy's got 5 times more units than me now.
He just punked me.
I was pissed.
I know your personality. That won't stand.
No, so I mean, it was within months. I was trying to do 21 to double what he had done, but it was only 19 because two of the units walked from us because they were too impatient. But so, no, he's still buying more, and I'm buying more. I've kind of hit the pause button just because of that last experience, and also because it's not because of the rates, because honestly, I don't care if the rates get to 15%. I'm still interested. It's the price. You can't refi your price. You can refi your rate. I don't care about a rate. That's a temporary problem. Your price and your rents matter way more, in my opinion, for this strategy, the cash-on-cash strategy.
Cash-on-cash.
I don't care what the rate is. It could go to 20%, and I'm still good. When I'm getting 4 times mortgage, go to 50%. I'm still going to buy. If the price is right and the rents match nicely, it doesn't matter what the rate is. It just doesn't even matter. Because if it's 5-10 years from now, whenever, I'll refi it, or I'll have enough cash, I'm going to pay that thing down fast anyway. It doesn't matter.
Nice. It's very good advice.
No, I think that's huge good advice, especially because that's what everybody is thinking right now. Everybody's complaining about rates. Everybody's wondering what's going on. And what you just said, I hope more people really take a second, rewind it, watch it again, of figure out your numbers, figure out your plan. I can refi later if I need to, as long as the numbers and stuff make sense for what I'm doing. Now, if you were like, well, if it goes up another point, I'm screwed. Well, then that's not correct, smart numbers. Figure out what you're doing, understand your property managers, what you can rent that for, know what your cash on cash is if you're going that direction, and as long as it makes sense,
you gotta look at the margins.
With it. You have to understand. Don't let that interest number scare you, because guess what? You backed away, he's right there. And so are 5 others that are going, you ding dong, you backed away because it's this percentage. I'll take that and I'll smoke you on this.
Right.
So
just like you got rid of the single family residence that you owed $18,000 on, higher debt load on a duplex that required $80,000 of repairs, but your cash flow's better.
Well, yeah, because I mean that thing rents for, so the mortgage on that was around, because I had a lot of equity in it, I put a good chunk down. The rent on that was, I think $850 or so, somewhere in that ballpark, but it rented for $2,400. The other one rented for, I think, $1,200 at the time when I sold it, and so, you know, I might have made what, $400, maybe $500 after rent. The other one, I'm making more than $1,000 a month cash flow.
Yeah, you used that equity to go buy this, which ended up giving you a greater end game of what you're looking at doing. And I think that's, I mean, I think that's the hugest thing to sit there and think of is understand what you're trying to do. Have a game plan of what you're doing, and actually talk to somebody, like he mentioned several times, of get a team, figure out. If you don't understand numbers, go talk to somebody who does understand numbers.
And you don't need to learn numbers. You don't need to learn
I hate
real
numbers.
estate in the area.
Ask those guys.
So, what did we learn?
Well, I learned that I need a good competitor investor to go punk me so I can get in the game and buy more units. I know Hyrum, and he's a consummate competitor. And so when there's competition, you run faster, don't you? In a marathon, you run faster.
Yeah.
And so obviously investing has a lot of differences, but there are some similarities as well. So I need somebody to go punk me so I can go buy a bunch more units.
Focus on your strengths. Hire the people who are your weaknesses.
Just have Hyrum on the show again. Learn something else. I mean, I learned a ton from what his stories and what he was talking about. I mean, the biggest one for me was he talked about investing forever, and his competitor said, "Why are you keep talking? I'm just going to go do it." Like, take that risk. Talk to somebody. Have somebody to partner with. At least just intellectually, like, hey, yeah, I think you should do it. Here's the numbers. Go do this. Don't wait 2 more years. You keep talking about it. Do it.
Yeah. And Hyrum, you get to weigh in as well. Is there anything that you feel like you learned today?
It just reassures me more that I need to get out of North Indy and have the right people managing my stuff.
So we had some great stories here. Some horrible stories about pipe freezing and stuff. We want to hear what your guys' stories on your investments are going, or things that you've heard from your friends on how bad rentals can be. Let's hear about them.
If you want to get in touch with us, shoot us a text at 801-228-7687. Make sure you mention the show. You can email us at theutahrealestateshow@gmail.com. You can watch this show on YouTube, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you learned something, or if you really love this show, give us a like on YouTube and drop a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. The Utah Real Estate Show is a production of Hive Collective at Presidio Real Estate, with support from Security Home Mortgage. The NMLS number for Security Home Mortgage is 178787. The NMLS number for Jason Christiansen is 240472, Equal Housing Lender. Not only is this not legal or investment advice, but you should definitely talk to a pro before you make any real estate decision. Every situation is different and should be considered in context. Copyright Jason Christiansen, Aric Wist, and Tyler Kazare. All rights reserved. Talk to you next week.
His last name is Oaks.
Okay.
Like the tree.
Okay.
Multiple trees.
Hyrum Maple.
Episode of the Utah Real Estate Show. I don't know why I can't say estate.
Jason Christiansen, mortgage lender. What the heck do I say?
Just hit that again. There you go. I pointed. I should have pointed.
Yeah, why did you point?
I don't know, because I'm an idiot. Okay, sorry, let's do it again. And then you come up with something.
Just go.
Okay?
Just go.
Yeah, improv.
Improv.
You're just repeating Jason.